One of the impacts of those changes has been that as a company, we have seen a huge increase in inquiries from people asking about either restarting contributions into plans or setting up new plans or maxing out on their contributions because they now recognise how good it looks. Yeah? Loads more choice, great tax planning opportunities, and there's no doubt about it, it has reconnected people to pensions. So some of Tony's colleagues, who dare I say it, were the biggest pension cynics I've ever come across, have now been seeking our advice about how they max out on their pensions. And there are calculations that you can undertake to work out what maximum contributions people can make, and I'll explain why in a moment. And we have historically had to do a few of those a year. We're probably having to do a few a week at the moment. Yeah. And that's because, particularly for people closer to 55, they can see light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. Okay. Carry forward. Just linking it to what I've just said. So the maximum contribution in a year is 40,000, but you can carry forward 3 years' worth of unused allowances, providing you have a registered UK pension. That's known as carry forward of the annual allowance. And as an example, Fred and Freya, in their early 50s, they run a shipping company, they're making good profits, and their accountants want to reduce corporate profits significantly. We come across this on quite a regular occurrence with Barnes. Neither have been pension believers. They view them as being fixed, inflexible, and the next one, if I had £1 for everyone that had said this to me, I would have retired already myself. They dislike the idea of saving for years, only possibly to give the whole lot up on death in retirement. That is the classic anti-annuity sentiment. As a result, whether they've got an old pension plan from 30 years ago, they haven't paid into pensions for years. Yeah. Because they've got that old pension, even if it went back to 30, 35 years ago, they are classed as being in a registered pension, which means they can take advantage of carry forward. That means that the company contributes £190,000 for each of them, 40,000 for this year, which you have to do first, then 50,000 going back 3 years, 50,000 2 years, 50,000 1 year. They've just reduced their corporate profits by 380,000, and the crucial point for these guys is the new rules make it look more attractive, and because they're closer to 55, that access and freedom seems like they can almost touch it. One of my clients actually works for the regulator, the Financial Conduct Authority, and he's practically maxing out as a result of these changes. He's got 18 months to 55. Yeah. Right, you can only carry forward if you're a member of a registered pension. If you've got no previous pension provision at all, you can't. Crucial point here, that last example is a company contributing. Yeah? If you're making personal contributions, so for example if you're self-employed, you can only get tax relief on 100% of your earned income, or 3,600, whichever's greater. Yeah? And so we need to be careful there, because if you get it wrong, you might end up making a payment and getting no tax break at all. And we've chosen Mitchell as an example. He's self-employed, he earns 45,000 a year, and he's paid 25,000 per annum into pensions for a number of years. He wants to bring his pension record up to date. He's thinking of retiring in a few years' time, and he's been told that based on his historical contributions of 25,000 per annum, he can put in a further 90,000. And the maths there is basically that 190 minus the 100,000 he's paid in over the last 4 years. He makes the payment in March, but he's in for a bit of a nasty surprise, because although you can carry forward your previous unused annual allowances, you don't get to carry forward your previous unused income when you calculate your tax relief. So for Mitchell, the maximum tax relief he can get is 100% of earnings, because this isn't an employer contribution, it's his contribution, which means it's capped at 45,000. All the contributions above that, he gets no tax break for at all. So just remember, if you are looking at carry forward of unused allowance, it's the allowance you're carrying forward. It's not the tax relief that attaches to it. You've got to have a high income in the year that the payment's made. And in fact, in Mitchell's example, what we would have advised is he made staggered payments over the next 3 or 4 years, lifting him up to the 45,000 each year. Okay. And this is the bit that I think we were quite generous, because if we'd have gone into this next section in detail, you'd have all definitely been asleep. Annual allowances are input period based, not always the same as tax year. Believe it or not, the input period can vary between different pensions you've got with the same supplier, and it can vary with different providers. If you've got several plans, it is a nightmare, because you have to look at each input period individually for each plan and work out which tax year those inputs fall into. Yeah? We didn't put the rest of the slides in because they are horrendously complicated, but the reality is carry forward is fabulous. It really works well. It's very, very useful for people that are attracted by the new pension rules and are trying to max out on contributions, but you need to be really careful. It is very complicated. If you make payments into existing plans and you haven't done the check on the input periods, it can cost you a lot of money in failed tax relief. So all I would say is you will probably need help if you are paying into existing plans, or if you paid contributions into them in the last 4 years.